think we're officially live. Hello to anyone who is watching live, or if you're watching on the replay, thank you for watching on the replay. Today I'm joined by the amazing Erin from Ivy and Light. So everyone say hi to her and go follow her at Ivy and Light. I think I've got the little graphic up here where I can tell everybody to go follow you somewhere. I don't know where. I'll figure it out. So today we're going to be talking about your About page. We've been working on a bit of a project together with your website. And I'm really excited to share that because it's fun to share the behind the scenes process of everything. But before I dive in, for people who don't know you and who are watching this, maybe you could just share a little bit of information about who you are, what you do. We're going to be discovering it all on your About page anyway, but just to say hello to everyone.
Hi guys, this will be fun because you'll see how much of what I say now matches what we end up with at the end. But I am Erin Holland. I am the owner and founder of Ivy and Light, a wellness community online, which basically helps you to go from knowing a little bit about natural wellness, natural healing, to really being able to implement everything that you learn and take that in order to reach big goals, turn dreams into reality, help you to heal and help you to boost your personal growth. So it's all about learning the tools and techniques, creating a foundation and going from there. My personal story is basically an entire life of sickliness, leading to lots of discoveries along the way of all the puzzle pieces that work personally for me for healing, and then discovering the emotional part of it, which really made a huge difference along the way. So yeah, it's about sharing what I've learned and making it easier for other people so they don't have to go through 20 years of struggle.
Right. And it's so powerful. I can say that firsthand as somebody who also has struggled a lot with their health, and you have helped me a lot along that journey. Like, it's so powerful. And so everything that we're doing just now is just to help communicate that exact message to your audience and figure out how we can do that through your website, because it's really powerful. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to walk through a couple things. One of the first things I want to do is just pull up a document on brand story and messaging that I created. It's not perfect, but I think it's really important that we make it that we differentiate, or maybe clarify is the right word, what an about page is. Because I feel like a lot of the time we get really stuck in our heads and we think that, oh God, our about page is about us. What do I write? I don't know what to say. I'm sharing the story, but like this isn't maybe of interest. Like there's just a lot going on in our heads. And the secret trick, I think, to a good about page is that it's not really about us. It's like about our customers or the clients or the people that we're trying to help. So before I quickly do that, do you want to maybe just share a little bit about who it is that you help? Like, who is your ideal client? Who is it that you're trying to share the message to? When you're writing your about page and we put this up, who is it that you want to be sitting behind the screen and reading this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really anyone who is tired of feeling sick and tired, or tired of being in a rut in life, and you've reached that wall where you say to yourself, you know what, I need to make a change. It's time to stop blaming other people or circumstances and take whatever control I can in this situation. And once I realize that I do have some control and there are some things that I can do, getting started step by step. So it's that pivot point from making excuses or feeling victimized or feeling frustrated to, you know what, even if I could do one thing today, let me do that. And if I stack those up over time, you're going to see an amazing difference.
Perfect. Okay. So if I'm just going to share my screen. Could be very, let me see. I still got to figure out how I do this properly. Here we go. Oh, look, I can do just the application window. Maybe this will work good. There we go. Well, nice. I got to like share it a little bit in the middle, I think. Okay, so this is just a little bit that I wrote about brand story. And the reason I bring it up is because I think a lot of the time when we're talking about our about page, this is what we're trying to share. We're trying to share our brand story. And like I said, it's really the whole reason that we want to focus on stories is that stories are a reflection of life. We cheer on, if you think about like the best movies that you watch or the best books that you read, we're really cheering on the characters we see ourselves in, right? So it's like even the underdogs, we cheer on the underdogs because we see ourselves in them. And we want to see that character or that person that's in the story succeed so that it gives us the hope or belief that we can succeed too. So you spoke a lot about how you weren't well for 20 years and you didn't really know where you were. So for a lot of people that are reading your About page, they're going to be in that same position. And so this is a formula that I basically use to create an About page. We want to start with before. Where did you start? How did you feel? What was your struggle? And so for you, Erin, you can talk a little bit about this too. We've got it up in your website content planner here, but do you maybe want to talk about like where you were before you discovered all of the things that you share now? Before you went on this wellness journey, like how did you feel? Where did you start? What was going on in your life as well at that time? So I'll just stop so I can see you as we talk.
So my health journey, I mean, really goes back to childhood. I remember being sickly most of my life. And of course, when you're a kid, you don't know, right? You just think that everyone gets ear infections and throat infections and, has aches and pains and stomach issues and all this stuff because you're not adult enough to have experienced other people's experiences to realize it's not normal. But definitely by the time I believe it was third grade, and I had asthma and allergies and was on a steroid and an emergency inhaler and a daily pill. And then I was also having digestive issues, gaining a lot of weight, lower energy, all the way through into high school, having scoliosis. I remember going to a physical therapist because I had so much neck pain, and they had me turn my neck, and she said, you have the turning radius of an 80-year-old woman.
Oh
and
my goodness.
And I was 15.
Horrible. It's scary too, right? Like when you're a teenager and you're like, because I know that that's something you've spoken about, and it's definitely something I've experienced too, where it's like you feel like you're in this body and you're like, but I'm an old person stuck in this body. Like, am I ever going to feel better or normal? And you're looking at everyone around and it doesn't make sense. So yeah, that's scary.
Yeah. If I ate what other people ate, I would gain weight, right? If I did the activities other people did, I would be exhausted. Just having someone give you the number 80 years old associated with you at that age is terrifying. And so they tried to do exercises, which were so painful I couldn't do them. I went to the chiropractor. I ended up doing massage therapy and all of this stuff. But in college, once I was on my own and kind of didn't have my mom, God love her, but she was a nurse. So she was taking me the traditional medical route, right? Yeah. And so once she wasn't there anymore to take me to the doctor, and I was just so tired of doctors, I started doing my own research. And I actually went on a detox diet for a friend who had ulcerative colitis. And she, just to help her, because she was like, I can't do this on my own. And we were roommates. I said, okay, well, let's just switch everything in our cabinets and we'll do it together. Well, she quit after day one, but I'd already spent the money. So
you were like dedicated to the cause at that point. You're like, I put an investment in, I need to see a return.
I've spent $25 on raw honey, etc. I will be, So that is a 6-week detox, which I still do to this day, a variation on that I've discovered works best. But I started doing that detox, and within 6 weeks I had lost, goodness knows, like 20, 30 pounds, higher energy, everything, skin, weight, how I felt, aches and pains. I stopped taking my allergy medicine. All of this stuff just improved immediately upon doing this detox. And so from then on through college, I just only ate extremely well. Right. And I, then I had energy to do yoga, and I had more energy to be active and all of this stuff. And yoga really helped my back more than the chiropractor and all that stuff. So um, then the next part of the story, this is where, they say, where did your story start? And then did it get worse?
Yeah.
And I left college. I got married. I got 2 stressful jobs that involved a lot of traveling, and I had 0 money. And this was the financial crisis. So like really 0 money, and went back to eating pasta because that's what I could afford, and beans and all
Cheap
that stuff.
and easy and quick. And if you're stressed
Mm-hmm.
out, it's comfort food.
Yep. And then moving, and then a 80-hour job on my feet all the time that I hated, and all of this stuff, and my health just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And at that point, even when I could start affording better food, the food wasn't enough. So that was a process from like 2009 to 2016, 15, somewhere in there, of just like declining health.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything, I thought I had fixed everything with food, and then coming to realize like clearly that's not enough. And finally I got a diagnosis of hypothyroidism, which made a ton of sense because I began to do research on that and realized that birth control medication, right, has a huge effect on you. And then just stress levels, emotional health. And I had never put emotions into the equation before. And I was resistant to the definition of me as a stressed out person because I handled it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I handle it, it doesn't mean I'm stressed, right? Clearly I know now is wrong.
Yeah, you just kind of like bury it, and you're like, "Hey, I'm good." Like that's one of the things I'm really guilty of being like, "Hey, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good," and it's almost like you're lying to yourself because you're like, "I can trick myself into being good," but you can't trick your body, so it's gonna come out in some form or fashion.
Exactly, whatever your weak link is going to break in a high stress environment. And so for me, it was my thyroid. But for other people, it could be adrenals, or it could be skin, or it could be gut issues, right? And so through that piece of my transformation of realizing that emotions and stress affect my hormones, which affect my health, and my digestive health, which still wasn't great from all the years of, stress, it all kind of came together. And I just got to this point where I realized I have to do something. Like I looked forward into my life 20 years from now, and it was like, it's unacceptable.
How did you
in all of the ways?
Like, so in that exact moment where you were like, you were kind of at this crossroads and you were like looking ahead and you were like, I can't do this anymore. Like what was going through your head? Like what emotions were you feeling in that moment?
I think if fed upness is an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point I was still married, but in a bad marriage, unsupported, and really just emotionally drained, emotionally abused, and all of these things. And for me, it was just like, you know what? If I don't take care of me, I'm not doing anyone any good. And the only way for me to take care of me is to remove the things that are literally killing me at this point. If my health is declining more and more and more. And so for me, it's very it was a for sure crossroads, because I had a clear path of what my life was going to look like, and it all was falling apart around me. And I just had to say, there's only one piece of this which I can control, and that's me.
Yeah.
Right. So from that point, it was just like, I'm either going to die or I'm going to live. And what am I, and do I care enough to make a choice? So I got divorced. I stepped down from my management position that had me working around the clock, like 24 hours a day, different times of the month. You would work either 2 a.m. or you'd be, there at 1 p.m. or just like all this craziness. And I started getting back to my natural health stuff, but looking for something new, because the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again. And I had tried all of the things, even like in 2006, I was taking probiotics when no one had ever heard of it.
Yeah.
I had done all of the cutting edge stuff, but I was just like, there's got to be something else. So I looked up online, natural health remedies, and I thought, okay, well, I haven't done this crystal thing, whatever this is about. I haven't tried that, and I guess let's try it. And I posted on Facebook, anyone who knows anything about hormones or thyroid issues, like, please tell me your weirdest way to heal, because I've done all of the other ones and I need something else to try. And so from there, I started wearing an aquamarine, which is a calming crystal.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to someone who said, well, I can't tell you this is going to heal you, but I started supporting myself with essential oils, and it made a huge difference for me. So I got an essential oil blend from her, and I had my calming crystal, and I had started doing affirmations at this point. And I would just hold that crystal, breathe in that oil, and just say, this is not more important than my health. This is not more important than my health. Anytime I could feel that stress rising. And from there, from that combination of technique and tools, within like a month and a half, I had run out of my thyroid medicine. It was a week late getting to me in the mail, and I just never started taking it again.
And did you ever,
you know what I think?
Like, did you dip at all? Like, I know that for me, if I don't take it, like, I'm okay for a little while, but like I feel my body just starts slipping down completely, like it falls apart at the seams. Or did you feel like now you had all of these pieces that you were good and you were getting better rather than worse?
Yeah, I just felt slightly better, which, for me was like 20% normal person's energy, then 25, then 30, so it wasn't like all of a sudden I was superwoman. Like, the realistic thing is, if you're way down here and you're trying to get here, it takes time, but you can feel that difference.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that is really important to me to help other people with is understanding whatever their life situation or their diagnosis or whatever, get as much information as we can about that, so that as we're making choices for that particular person. Because even someone with hypothyroidism might not do the same protocol I did.
Right.
Because mine was directly caused by stress, by the T4 hormone converting into reverse T3, which is basically latches on to the receptor and says, instead of metabolize, it says stop metabolizing, shut it down. This is a life or death scenario. We need to save energy because we don't have any. Mm-hmm. And so for me, stress was a giant piece. Whereas for another person with thyroid issues, it might be a smaller piece. And jumpstarting your thyroid function, that T4 part, the initial part, might be more important. So whenever I'm mentoring someone or coaching them, it's less like me just saying, well, here's what I did, there you go. And more of us trying to get specific information on everything that's going on with them, researching as much as possible so that they get a tailored result rather than just, my puzzle pieces and them trying to squeeze into them.
Yeah, I think that's so important because, well, look, I have a few thoughts, so let me try to clarify them one at a time. One, I think it's really important because, and this is not true for, I'm not at all speaking for all doctors or medical professions or anything like that, but sometimes I think when you go to a doctor's office, those people are trained to look at your symptoms and connect them to an illness and tell you, okay, this is what you've got, you fit this box. But in some ways, you're not really your symptoms versus a person with a whole life going on. And their job isn't to be like a therapist or like to even like look at that whole big picture. Do you think like that has played a big role, or that's like one of the biggest things that made a difference to you, is to take like a more of a holistic approach, I guess, rather than just look at your symptoms and be like, this, and this must be this?
Yeah, I think one thing is to disassociate that word that they give you, hypothyroidism, right? It's easy when people hear that, they think, okay, well, let me just look up what I'm supposed to do for this and follow a protocol because a doctor must know. And so then a doctor will say, take a pill for the rest of your life, right? And then change your eating, XYZ. But ultimately underlying that is some sort of systemic issue within your body. And so getting to whether or not there's an emotional thing or a hormone thing or a digestive thing, there are some foundational elements that no matter who the person is, I'm always going to recommend a probiotic. I'm always going to recommend improving gut health. I'm always going to recommend understanding what stresses you out and having tools to handle that, right? Because whether or not it comes out as hypothyroid or it comes out as migraines or it comes out as whatever, there are some foundational underlying pieces to the puzzle of how your body works that are just key for everyone. You know, your gut and your immune system, your gut and brain connection, hormones and emotions. So not being tied into a term, but also seeing that term as a jumping off point. So for me, once I started researching like really, really deep into hypothyroidism and saw, okay, there's a thing called reverse T3, which is a reaction to stress. Mm-hmm. Almost no doctor will even do a test for that. When you do general blood work, they don't even test your reverse T3 numbers
or talk about.
And so,
like they don't share that information with you. Even my mom, who I've always found her smarter than most doctors that I've gone to, which I don't know if that says a lot for my mom or a little for doctors, but she had never heard of it. But she was smart enough to know that I'm smart enough that she went and looked it up and took it to the doctor that she was working for. And they did blood work for me based on that. But I had to tell them that the test existed and tell them that that this is what I needed. I needed this panel of blood work. And so it's in the medical text, but that doesn't mean it's taught, right? And so when I went to a doctor, because I do think a doctor is an important piece if we're talking about a health journey. When I finally picked my doctor based on the fact that she knew more about hypothyroidism than I did. When I finally found someone who had done more research than me, I knew this was a doctor that I could trust. She also used natural methods and didn't want me to be stuck on the medication for forever. But the reason she felt that way was because she had done all of the research and understood the stress aspect of it, right? So I think that finding somebody who's there to help you, like really help you as a human, and who has at least as much knowledge as you, if not more, is key. And then a combination of like foundational changes and deep research are what gives you the ability to kind of, you're always trial and erroring a little bit, just like doctors are. If we look at, hydroxychloroquine and things like that, right? There's always some sort of like, we hope this works. But hopefully when you've done all this research, you have fewer choices that you're trying. You're not just trying all the things, you're trying a targeted thing based on your symptoms and your underlying causes that you have in your life. Right. That makes sense. So if we were to look at this, because it sounds a lot like, I think it's important to make the distinction as well between what you are doing and like versus a doctor. It's very different. And so what you're really doing is you're providing a place of, you're sharing that information and giving people those tools and techniques, but you're also giving them the support of saying, hey, you're not in this alone. And like when it comes to your about page specifically, that's going to be really important, because I think that is the message that we're trying to share, right? I've been exactly where you are. That's my before. I've been stressed. I've been unwell all the time. I've been sick. I've gone to all these doctors trying to find this information. I've done all this research. But then this thing happened where I discovered, as you say, like hormones and emotions were like the big thing you learned, right? Like the big point. And from doing that, you were then able to then go and research some more and figure out a more, again, I guess, holistic approach that combines, would you say it's like almost like physical, emotional, spiritual? Would you add anything else to that or change that? Like, how would you word that?
Well, I mean, it definitely is physical, spiritual, mental, emotional.
Okay.
Which is a mouthful, but I think if you ignore any of those, then you've got an issue. Even if we're talking about personal growth, because a lot of people that I work with just have trouble accomplishing goals.
Yeah.
And so that's not a physical health issue necessarily. They didn't come to me for a physical health issue. But then it turns out that they're exhausted all the time and they have brain fog, which is a physical issue.
Yeah. It's like,
right. And so improve yourself, improve your life. If you're a business owner, improve yourself, improve your business.
yeah.
So I think the one thing I would love to express better is that I teach foundational tools and techniques, things that are going to help anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And that, that goes across the board. We all have hormones. We all have emotions. We all have stress. We all have, a digestive tract, which is the key to our immune system and all this stuff. But then I also, very importantly, encourage people and help people learn how to research for themselves and give them the confidence to do that. And also hold that space for them that they are capable.
Yeah.
I do think that community is a huge part of this. And for me, literally shifting my community of getting rid of people that were huge negatives in my life and replacing it with people who were positive,
right,
was a part of my physical health journey. Even just having my boyfriend, Alan, to say, you don't have to be sick. Like you can heal. Having someone just remind you daily that you can heal is huge. So yeah, the power of support and the power of having someone in your corner who believes in you is huge too. That's
very true. I just wanted to pick up on something that you said, and you said it earlier as well, actually, and it made me think about this. A lot of the time, do you think that we make poor life choices and we can punish ourselves for them, right? You said you weren't in a good marriage and things like that. You weren't in a good job. Do you think like part of the reason you got to that place that wasn't so great was because you had a lot going on the inside, emotionally, like physically, like you maybe even the fact that because we talk about, like, people talk about how your gut is your second brain, right? So if that's not working properly, it can't support your big brain in your head to make those good decisions. If you do have brain fog, if you are tired and you are exhausted and you can't think clearly, do you think that maybe is a contributing factor to like your life, like how you're living basically, and the decisions that you're making every day?
I think that a lot of the ways that we act as adults come from things we're taught as children, right? And so behaviors that we have that we think are logical are very often just learned behaviors from childhood. So like for me, I always find it awkward, funny for me to speak to other people who have like their main issue is body image, because I'm a pretty average sized person, but I had the mentality of a very overweight person when I was a kid. I was really overweight. And, in the 90s, in a fairly upper class society, I was the biggest person there. Today, for kids, I would be considered more average, right? Because our health crisis has continued. So I find it really like hard to speak to that point, that emotional point of being overweight, because a lot of people look at me and they say, but you're just average. But it's there for sure. And if you're told that you're unworthy by people around you, not even necessarily your family, right? But by people that you go to school with or whatever, if you're told you're unworthy because of your physical body, then you start to hate your physical body too, which definitely affects the way that you treat it. And it affects the way that you treat yourself and the things that you allow yourself to believe are possible. Absolutely. And for me, also, religion had a lot to do with it, being told the life choices that I needed to make, what was good for me. And then once I was married, what my choices were. If you have someone who mistreats you, it doesn't matter because you're married to them. So that lasted way longer than it should have, because I thought that it was my responsibility, even if it killed me. Yeah. Right. And so I did a lot of self-damage trying to fix it because of a sense of that's required of me as a female human. right?
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, so just realizing, wait a minute, like if these life choices are literally making me sick, like I should check out the veracity of these beliefs that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the affirmation piece comes in, of just realizing that you have to speak love into yourself. Because if other people have spoken negative to you, it's in there, and the only way to replace it is to give something else in place of it. You can't just ask negative feelings to go away. You have to actually replace it in your brain physically with a positive belief. And so, yeah, and that's why I love combining the crystals, essential oils, and affirmations. That's like what I call my power trio.
Mm-hmm.
Because literally, if you take an oil, like I was doing at the beginning of this, if you take an oil and put it in your hand and breathe it in, it goes directly into your limbic system, which is the center of your emotions. It does not pass go. It does not collect $200. Your sense of smell is more direct to your emotions than any other of your senses. And then you add a crystal, the feeling of having the crystal vibration on your skin, the beauty of seeing it, right? The sonic, the sound of saying the affirmation out loud. You're healing yourself with your 5 senses. Yeah. And that's how you replace those old emotions, by introducing a positive and introducing it again and again and again, until your brain, that track for that thought, goes faster than the track for the negative thought. And eventually your brain just sweeps over that old track because it's not needed anymore.
It's almost like changing your default setting in life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that makes a lot of sense. I love what you said about power trio. I had to write it down on paper so I'd remember that. Okay, so when we think of this, really what we're saying is, you've been in this place. It was kind of crummy. But you learned this information about hormones and emotions, and you learned the tools and the techniques that you could use, such as your power trio. And now you're in a good place. Mm-hmm. You don't need to be on medication. You've healed your body. And now you have tons of energy that you want to direct into helping others achieve that same, and go on that same journey and achieve that same thing. And the way that you do that is really through the community you've provided, because that community is then, if you think about all the elements that make up your brand, the crystals, the jewelry, the oils, even like your Young Living team in itself, they all come under that, I think, mm-hmm. whole community aspect. So we want to be able to tell that story. And then we want to direct people with a call to action of like, here's your next step if you want to go on this journey with me. And so I see that as you have 2 different call to actions there. The first one could be join the free community, which would be your mm-hmm. Facebook group. And that's our transitional call to action, right? We just want to get people into our funnel and into our email.
Right.
And then the second one is if they're like, hey, I want some of what Erin's got going on, let me just sign up now. I think that main call to action has to be to join your paid Ivy and Light community, rather than mm-hmm. your essential oils team. And this is why, because I feel like the oils are just one part of it. And if we focus that as the main call to action, then they're going to miss out on all this other stuff that is actually what's going mm-hmm. to help them as well. Because the oils are just right. all this, and you put out so much content, like so much, and it's so good, and you teach people so much. But I just feel like if I was coming to you and hey, I am technically your ideal customer, right? I have all these issues, felt all this stuff. Mm-hmm. If you sold me on oils, that would be great. But then if I went and bought that, I would be missing out on the other stuff. Whereas if you sell me on the community, then mm-hmm. I can experience everything in that, and I can sign up for oils and crystals and your coaching. And in some ways, it also makes more sense strategically, because you can make, not that it's necessarily money is your focus, but we are a business, so we have to make money. That mm-hmm. makes more sense in terms of profit as well. So does that sound good to you?
It does, yeah. I mean, I try to keep my idea behind the pricing for everything that I do is to keep it affordable so that you really could access all of it. So that you could afford to be in the onward and upward group coaching, and then you could afford to also be purchasing oils or supplements or CBD or, you know, all that stuff, and the jewelry, and you could afford to do an occasional one-on-one coaching session. Like none of it is so expensive that you could that's all you could afford. Well, at least I don't think so. And and I'm not wealthy by any stretch. So for me, I do believe that the one-on-one is great because it's where I have like intro to crystals, intro to essential oils, and where I put anytime I do a new video, right? It's very easy to see there. Plus, it's a safe space. It's a closed space. So if you ask a question, your entire Facebook following is not seeing your question that you're asking.
Yeah,
I think is huge. And then the group coaching, the way I have it set up, just based on what I felt like was the piece that you couldn't get anywhere else within my brand, is literally like step-by-step goal completion, intention setting, following through, you know, releasing what's holding you back, intention setting, following through. So it's almost more of a holding your hand on whatever your journey happens to be.
yeah.
And then the education on the tools, a lot of the tools comes with the essential oils piece, because the beauty of Young Living is that not only is it just essential oils, but they also have the highest quality of supplements and CBD that you can trust. And, you know, all of these other, and like my shampoo and my face wash and all that stuff. So almost all of the tools that I recommend, besides the crystals, come from Young Living because they're the purest.
Yeah.
So I have obviously some stuff I get on Amazon, but that's like the simplicity of it, is that I can just say any of the things that we need, guess what? We can just go to this one place.
Right. And it's everything's there. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good. So what I'm going to do now, if I know that you have your own live stream going up pretty soon, right? So I'll ask you before I go ahead and do this. Would you rather we close up this one just now and I can always come back and do it myself, right? The about page and write in it. Or do you want to have a go and we'll try and write it out together just now? What do you think? Because I know that you're short for a little bit because I talk too much.
No, I'm fine. That's okay. I can talk with the best of them. I think I'm good. I don't have anything in the next couple of hours. So
okay, perfect. So I'll just share my screen again. And okay. So here we are. So there's a couple things we want to do. One of the things, if we I can't see your face here, so let me just move this. Hopefully that works. Okay. So this is not your website content planner. This is my own one. Okay, so there's a couple things we wanted to talk about. The first one was your brand statement, right? And I have this cool quote from a friend. Your brand identity is like a hook of a great song. Get it right and people will echo it back to you. I actually wrote that a while ago and completely forgot about it.
Nice.
So, that's what we want. We want that hook for your customers. And this is not so much for your about page. This is for your home page, but I think it will set the tone for your about page. So we were talking about who your ideal customer is, what their biggest problem is, how you solve that problem, and how that makes their life better. If I bring up your content planner here, and we'll just go through it. My computer is so slow. I think it's the time of day. So here we've got your bat signal is knowledge is power, shining a light, creating a foundation in knowledge, tools, and techniques, teaching you how to care for the garden that is your life, which I love that. And you'll experience healing and growing, and you'll understand how to keep going and expanding exponentially. So if I just take this document up here, and I'm just going to what do you think about something like this? And I'm just going to use this as my formula. Something like reclaim your, let me write this down. And we can play around with all of this because this is our first go of it. What about something like reclaim your health? And our supportive wellness. To what about something like this? Do you think this speaks to your message? Oh, I can't type at all. It's really, you know what it is? It's so intimidating when you're on like a live and like people can see you typing. You're like, oh, I've got spelling mistakes. I'm already self. What about something like this? Do you think that would work? Like a variation of this? And the reason I say this is because, well, a couple things. Reclaim your health. You want to catch people straight off the go and speak exactly to what their problem is. Mm-hmm. Then we have join our supportive wellness community. I don't think I even need a comma there. I don't know. The supportive is the description. So this in some ways is telling the short-term benefit, right? Like your okay. Support. Join our community is the call to action, and like learn how to finally heal your body. I put finally in because I feel like when you're in that position and you're feeling not so good and you're feeling sick and you've tried everything, it's like finally there's an answer, right? Mm-hmm. Rather than just say learn how to heal your body. It's like it just kind of relates to them in a way. And then obviously heal your body, and then the natural way because it speaks to how you do things. Like you use natural tools, techniques, methods, all that stuff. So what do you think about something like that?
I love that. I always get stuck in this sort of, I've rewritten this like probably 7 times on my website, right? All of this basic about information because I'll say one and then I'll think, oh, but it doesn't say this one other piece, or, oh, maybe I could say it. And so for sure, I always overthink it. Mm-hmm. And for me, I think the issue is more what resonates with someone and less what's an exact description, right? Because I know what I'm trying to describe. And so I get overwhelmed by the sense of needing to describe it rather than an understanding of what a person on the other end needs to hear in order to realize the value.
Yeah. So the thing about when this first statement is it has to be short and punchy and to the point. Like it has to be just enough to hook me in. Because then if you've got me hooked and I keep reading, you have the opportunity to then explain all that good stuff in a little bit more detail. Mm-hmm. Whereas sometimes, especially if you are in a place of you're frustrated and you're overwhelmed and you've been looking at a lot of this content, like researching on your own, it's very easy to get overwhelmed and be like, this is too much. Like, so it
sounds hard.
Yeah. And their life is already hard. Getting up in the day is hard. Getting through the day is hard. So we want to just say something. And I don't know about this. Maybe there's a better way to put this. But if there's something you think we're not including, by all means, like you can share that or we can talk about it. But I would say, like, don't worry if it's not explaining everything well, because that's the point of the website. Like, the goal is to give them just enough information, the right information in the right place, in the right way, at the right time, so that as they go through your website, they're on a journey and they're learning more and more and more and more. And everything that they're learning, you're taking them slowly and you're guiding their hand, just like the way you do in your community. To the point where they're then like, okay, yes, I want to be part of this and I'm ready. This is something and the fact that you've been able to guide them through, not that you're a website designer, right? This is a challenge because how you feel might be based on words and copy and design and things, which seems crazy. But if you can guide them on that journey through your website and you can help them feel like you've held their hand along the way to making a decision, then you've already shown the value that you provide in the group by doing that without them having to pay anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, we can definitely revisit that if you want to. Just what I would say is think about it and make any notes, and then let me know what you think. For our brand story, I'm going to just come back to everything you've written here. My specialty group helps members understand how natural products work and support our mind, body, and spiritual health. So this is good. Understanding that the foundation of nature in us, the power of natural products. Same one. And I would read through, for anybody who's watching this, I've already read through this before I came on the call. So it's kind of a refresher. I'd obviously take the time to sit and learn and read it through a lot more thoroughly and pick out what I'm looking for when I do this is I'm looking for like really key points. So like I really like this teaching you how to care for the garden that is your life because it's visual. People can visualize it and it's something we can apply an image to and it makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
I mean, that sentence is kind of an attempt to express why I named the brand what I named it. Why is it Ivy and Light, right?
Oh, see, I would never have known that. That's so powerful, just even.
Yeah, I mean, I truly believe that we are all meant to be healthy, right? Our bodies are meant to work well within nature, within a natural environment. We're meant to be healthy and succeed. And all we really need is the basic nutrients. Like for Ivy, if Ivy has light, it keeps going onward and upward up that wall. You know, and I love that idea of it just takes a little bit and you can really see amazing growth. So that was where the brand name came from. An innate ability within ourselves, and then just needing that little piece for me, that shining a light, that being that support for you can help you to succeed in a way that you were meant to initially.
That's wonderful. I love that. Even that right there, I would never have guessed that. So I'm really glad that we mentioned that. Okay. So natural products and techniques to support any goal. Here we are. Okay, so what I think I'm going to do is this might be really boring to sit and watch me type because it's really hard to write and think and type at the same time. So I apologize. But I think what I'm going to do is just try and write something out here and then we can go back and fix it. Does that sound okay to you?
Yeah, sounds good.
Just based on everything you've shared with me today. So, and again, like I'm going to be writing in your words, so I definitely will need some input on this at the end. So, I want to, and feel free to talk as we're doing this. Like if you see something that you don't agree with. So what about something like this? I wanted to create a space where you can come, because I'm thinking if we start with, we've got our statement and then a picture of you, and then we can start to tell your story. And this will be long, but I have an idea that maybe this would make a good video, but we need to write it out first.
Okay.
It would be something like, hey, I'm Erin. I wanted to create a welcome to my page or whatever we put here as like a little intro. I wanted to create a space where you come and learn I guess I think we'll have to play with words here to strengthen it up. Powerful healing techniques. Let me think. This is where it's not fun being on camera.
So I'll give you more data. Like I said, data overwhelm. But So I gave you just now the name behind the brand. The reason the brand exists at all, and the reason I don't just still sell crystal jewelry, is because it took me, I don't think 20 years is a stretch. What am I, 34? Yeah. I would say about 20 years of trying myself to figure out what was wrong with me, quote unquote.
Yep.
And heal myself. And the amount of books I've purchased, products I've purchased, online searching that I've done is insane. And you can always find one piece of the puzzle in one spot and another piece of the puzzle in another spot and another, so I went through this whole thing with this detox diet and I did all of that and it really helped. But like nowhere in there did he say anything about emotions. Mm-hmm. And so then you got to go find the emotions piece in another place. And if you want to learn about meditation, that's in the spot. And essential oils is in a spot. And I got so annoyed that I could not find an online source that put them all together in a place where people could easily learn the basics and decide which ones were going to be best for them. And I spent probably like 3 or 4 months just searching for that online, thinking like, surely that exists. And I couldn't find it anywhere. And so I just said to myself, okay, well, if I think it's dumb that this doesn't exist, I think it's hurting people for them not to have this, easy way to find out how to use natural methods to heal themselves. I guess I just have to create it. It's my responsibility to try to create this. And so that is why Ivy and Light is online. That's why it's an overall wellness community. And that's why I teach really across the board foundational techniques instead of just sticking to 1 or 2. Even if there's 1 or 2 that work best for me, I want to introduce people to everything so that they can pick which ones are most helpful for them.
It's funny you should say that. I think that like in itself is so powerful. Like I talk about it a little bit in business with people who say, why, like there's no value in me doing this thing or creating a community around this thing because people are already doing it. And it's like, okay, well, they're doing it and there's all these people that you could go to and learn from, but like that's where you get overwhelmed. There's a huge amount of value in bringing that information to people. Mm-hmm. And this is the place, this is going to be the number one resource you can go to if you want to take control of your health. Like if you want to know, everything you need is here. And I'm dedicated to providing it for you, right?
Right.
So it's like one of those things. We all start businesses to either solve a problem we're facing or a problem that we see somebody else facing. And it's right. Like both. Okay. This is a little weak, but we'll strengthen it. So the reason I'm writing it this way is because I feel like we need to write it and I recommend this to everybody, that you have to write your about page like a conversation with your customers or your client or whoever you're trying to reach. Because then I can connect to you. Whereas if you're writing in third person or you're writing about yourself, like the truth is people really don't care that much, like because everybody's thinking about themselves, their own problems, what's going on in their life. Let's see. Information. I'll type this, then we can talk about it. Because I also need to make sure that this is written the way you would say it. Mm-hmm. So in some ways, this section right here, this is like a little introduction. I don't know why I managed to put that in bold. A little introduction. And then here, this is the before part of the story. Like I'm introducing it and saying, hey, I've been where you are. Or, hey, you're basically, that's a really bad way of putting it. what you're doing is you're saying, hey, listen, I know how you feel right now, and this is why I
Mhm.
want to keep listening and to what I have to say right now, because I've been where you are, and let me explain or show you that I've been on this journey too. So what
Yeah.
do you think about this part right here?
I'm just reading through it. I want to create a space where you can come and learn the powerful natural healing tools and techniques to reclaim your health and feel good again. This includes crystals, essential oils, affirmations, and meditation. See, if you're reading this, I know it might have been a while since you felt that way. You might be sitting, staring at your screen, feeling tired, unwell, maybe even a little hopeless. You've tried everything. You've gone to doctors, changed up your diet, lost yourself in the Google sea of information. Still, you have no answers. All you want is to wake up with energy, ready to take on the day and feel good about it. So, yeah, I love all of that. I think that so I get it. I know your struggle. I feel your struggle. I've been exactly where you are. There are definitely like idioms that I would say differently,
Yeah,
but the content is there. Like I would probably say Google rabbit hole.
right.
Right.
Okay, so that's even that, right? That's important. Because what we don't want is it to be my voice, right? It's important
Right.
and so like a big part of why we speak through, just like what we did the last sort of hour, a big part of when we're talking about this is I'm listening to what you're saying, but I'm also trying to listen to like how you would say it,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can sort of like get your voice in there. So once I've written this out, a good thing to do would be to then for you to go over it and then tweak it to how you would say it, if that's
Yeah.
good to you.
Well, one other thing I would love for them to feel as they're reading this is a sense of like accessibility, inclusion, being welcome. That was the other part of the accessibility of wellness information that I was frustrated with. If you go to I don't know, to a meditation site and try to learn about meditation, the chances are you're going to come up against people who are holier than thou,
Mm-hmm.
for lack of a better term, who have gotten so far on their spiritual journey that they don't really understand what it's like to be starting. And I always found that very frustrating, that if you're wanting to teach someone something, you need to be willing to meet them where they are,
That's really
and have them not be embarrassed to not already know about essential oils or to not
Mhm.
already know about meditation. There's no judgment, no sense of you needing to meet some sort of pass some sort of prerequisite in order to
Yeah.
join this.
Yeah, that's huge. And so a big part of how you convey that message is how you write. So if you notice, if you've been on a lot of these websites, I'm sure you've seen them use like maybe not medical terms, but definitely terms that a beginner wouldn't use, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who's new to the world wouldn't know to say the words or use the terms that somebody who is very deep into it would understand. So the more we can write in a really simple form, the more we can connect to that, like, because you're right, it's about meeting them where they're at and using language that they can understand in this moment, right?
Yeah.
Before they can understand, let me just find something here. Right, even like endocrine system or
Yep.
adrenals or anything like that could be like, I don't know what you're talking about, right? If you're
Mm-hmm.
new to it. Um, oh,
Yeah, or metaphysical healing,
yeah.
right? Quantum theory. Because like all of my nerdy stuff that I love, yes, I'm super aware that if I throw that into an early into a conversation with someone, their brain turns off.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, one of the things that Eddie makes fun of me for is like he'll just randomly insert the word microbiome into like a sentence. It makes no sense just because he's making fun of me. It's so true. It's funny. Okay, so I've been exactly where you are. So let's try this. Let me think. I apologize if this isn't so fun and you're waiting a lot. It's I didn't appreciate like the pressure of being watched while you type.
It's like a performance sport all of a sudden, right?
Yeah, and if there's anybody from the grammar police watching, leave now because don't expect there not to be 100 typos.
I had to unlearn how to use proper English when blogging.
Oh, it's so true.
As a literature person, you get a degree in English lit and you want to do everything properly. Unfortunately, no one enjoys reading that. So you have to learn how to write conversationally again.
You know what's funny? I had an English teacher when I was 14. I was never like a good reader. Like I just wasn't. And I was more of a maths person. You know how people either gravitate towards English or math.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
let me finish the sentence first because I'll forget what I was going to say. I was overweight and I couldn't figure out. Do you think this is accurate? Like maybe I should just wait till the end. I'll type it, then we can talk about it. Okay, so to finish what I was saying, yeah, I had an English teacher when I was 14, and I was already a bit self-conscious of my grammar because I didn't read very much, but she terrified me. Like, if you can imagine Cruella de Vil as a teacher, that was Mrs. Thomas, bless her heart, because I'm sure she's a lovely person out of the classroom, but she was scared. And I got so scared. And even at uni, I would like have my Harvard referencing guide up. And then I started blogging and I tried to do it right. And no one read my posts. And they were saying like I don't think they came across well. And then I realized it's actually easier if you just write how you talk. Like write as if you're a person, because people are going to read it like a conversation and they're going to connect with it a little bit more. But it's really difficult, especially if you've done like English lit. Oh my goodness, I can't imagine.
It's like I could get a gold medal in writing a 5-paragraph essay, but literally no one would want to read that because their brain immediately goes, ugh, 5-paragraph essay. So yeah, it's the best compliment you can get is when someone says, oh my goodness, I could just hear you saying that, right?
Oh, this doesn't make sense. This is me panicking in real time. This has come from what you've said and also just like reading through your website content planner. This isn't good, but I gotta fix this. How's this? Something along these lines. Like it doesn't have to be these words, but if we can at least tell the story in an abbreviated way, you can go away or we can go through it together and we can edit it as we go.
Okay, let's see.
I'll just see if we have any comments. I don't think we do. Hello to everyone who's watching or as we go.
Getting to look at my reading face. Yeah, I would say maybe it's even more important, at least for me personally, like to speak about the fact that I was not accomplishing any of the things that I wanted to with my life. Okay. Right? I mean, as a creative person, like so I have a degree in music performance. Wow. Wasn't using that.
Yeah.
A degree in English lit, wasn't using that. I had learned to paint, taken up painting, but like didn't know like what it went. I needed an outlet for being something more than just a cog in someone's wheel. Like a cog in the American married woman notion and in the retail sales manager notion and all of that stuff. It just none of that was bringing me any sort of joy or satisfaction, and in fact it was making me sick.
Yeah.
Okay. So because I would love for people to see that if they take their health seriously, take themselves seriously, that actually their dreams, their goals don't have to just stay dreams. Mm-hmm. They actually are capable more of than just waking up and going about their what they probably feel is their boring life.
Right.
If that makes sense.
If so, like if reality. So I'm just taking notes here. I know for sure, I don't think we're going to finish all of this on this because I just keep going, but we'll get most of it done. And what's cool is we can come back when it's finished and show everybody how it turned out. Okay, so are you okay to leave this stuff in? I left it in specifically because I think it can be a trigger for certain people who are feeling like that themselves.
Yes. Yeah, I'm fine with those details. I think I want to read through it and try and figure out like what's the way to say it that is true to my story and also would speak to somebody in that situation. Yeah. So the one thing I don't want to do, I guess, is trigger people who or untrigger, I don't know if that's the word, but like people who think, oh, well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with my marriage, or, well, I like my job. So what is the balance of like details of my particular story that are going to speak to someone, but also not wanting to shut out other people whose story is different? Does that make sense?
It does. So there's a couple of ways we can do that and we can convey it because we're writing this out right now, but how we display it on a web page would be different, right? So like you could literally have a section of like, can you relate to any of this? Ding, ding. Mm-hmm. And I guarantee people will only see the thing that relates to them. It will be like a highlighter because they'll be like, oh, he gets it. Or they won't relate to any of it, in which case they won't. But that's the whole point of being able to, you're trying to speak to the problems that people are facing. And that could be within themselves. It could be externally, because the whole idea is if you're struggling with this part of your life, that manifests itself in all kinds of ways.
Right.
So we're trying to get them to connect with the fact that if you're feeling like this or this is happening in your life, then this might be able to help you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And not kind of not allowing people to ignore the causes, right? People, well, I hate my job, but that has nothing to do with my digestive problems.
Right.
Yes, it does.
If you think about it though, like, one, a lot of us live in denial. Two, we don't think of it. Like I remember for a long time, I just lived how I was. I didn't even realize how ill I was until I felt better. And then I was like, oh, that wasn't good. But I just had accepted it because I didn't know. I didn't have a point of comparison or a point of contrast.
Absolutely.
So you're right. You want to make it so that it can't just be a throwaway comment, but then making that connection can be difficult. And the best way you can do that, by the way, the best way you can not isolate people but share your story is to do it on video, because then people will connect your story to you but still pick up on those triggers and say, hey, I feel like that. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. People will hear what they want to hear. They will see what they want to see. So I wouldn't worry too much about that.
Okay, that makes sense.
So this is where you were. Okay, let me see if I can write this out. Do you think that would be accurate? Like, do you think that up until you created Ivy and Light and the work you did beforehand to even like go through this yourself, would you say you were like focused on the individual parts rather than the whole? It's like what we were saying about the emotional stuff, the hormones, the spiritual side of things.
Yeah, I was very, very busy fighting the fight for healthier eating, because even that, like trying to talk to my family about, not eating cereal and milk for breakfast every day, like it's just like deaf ears, right? So I had to fight for myself a lot to make people believe that my issues were related to food. I was told over and over either that things like my asthma was in my head.
Yeah.
I was told that I just needed to exercise. I was told that, just things that I knew were not true, right? Or I was told, well, that's just the way that your body is, or, just lots of things that I knew in myself that something was wrong. And I knew that if I exercised, I did not feel better.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that there was an issue, that I was not making it up, which I was told repeatedly. So I was so busy fighting that fight that when that stopped working for me, it was kind of like, uh-oh, now what? Because I know that this is true, but why is it not fixing everything? Yeah. And I had not, I had not put the emotion piece into it because I hadn't needed to until that part got so bad.
Yeah. And I think it's funny you should say that, because I think a lot of people who are in that position, if you've never felt those like if you've never gone through, like you had hypothyroidism, but it could be anything. People that have not experienced that can't relate to it. So it seem like you're crazy. One of the things, I know you're a big believer in this too, that food can heal your body. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people don't believe in that, and they can think, and sometimes it's like healthy foods that you think that would be healthy are not for you.
Right.
And so you can start to think you're crazy too. And so like, it seems like a big part of what has to be overcome is learning that you're not crazy and that it's not all in your head.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that your health is important, even if you're wrong about some things, right? Even if you realize, like, obviously I now as an adult realize, like, oh, I should be exercising every day because it's really good for emotions and my lymphatic system and all that stuff, right? But I was so resistant to it because I just kept being told that was the only reason that I was overweight, was because I didn't exercise. But yeah, even if you learn that some of the things that you discounted are true, along the way, you have to fight for yourself, no matter how crazy you sound. And I talk to people all the time who the doctors still haven't given them a diagnosis, but they still know that whatever the doctors think is wrong is not what's wrong.
Right.
And it's just refusing to give up on yourself.
Mm-hmm. All of this is really good. Which makes me think what I've written is not so good, so I'm going to have to go back and change it. But if we can get like a rough outline. So now, what do you feel like now? Like when you wake up, how do you feel right now? Are you like excited to wake up in the morning? Do you feel like you have energy?
I have buckets more energy than I used to have. Mm-hmm. And I think it's almost more like about motivation and belief. So this is huge. Belief that if I have a goal, I can accomplish it. So we haven't even talked at all about like nomad life, right?
Right.
Which we talked about talking about. But the reason that I now travel the country in a travel trailer and get out into nature as much as I want and all of those things is because I had achieved a massive goal that seemed impossible in regaining health. And once I had achieved that massive goal, and then I had started a business and achieved a goal of being able to support myself through my business instead of having to work for someone else. By the time you've achieved one or two big goals, then you just start to be incredibly confident that if you put your mind to it, you can achieve another one and another one and another one. And so when we decided to get rid of our apartment, store all of our stuff, build out our car and a travel trailer and just do what we wanted to do with life, we didn't even wonder if it was possible.
Right. That terrifying, right? Like that, even thought of that. Like I'm always like, that looks cool. I could never do it. Like I'll binge watch all of you and Alan's videos, but I'll be like, no, I could never do something like that. But it's funny and it's true. Once you accomplish one thing and regain, and the thing that you disbelieve the most about yourself, which often is that I can't get better. Mm-hmm. Once you do that, you know that anything you face in life, you can do. But
Yeah.
a lot of the time we try and take care of all the other goals that are external and disconnected from ourselves. Like we'll overwork and we'll become the best salesperson, or we'll try and run a marathon and fail, but we haven't even learned how to like put our shoes on properly. It's kind of
Right.
that, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. Or we pick goals that aren't our goals, but we pick them because they seem achievable.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we'll be the best sales manager that there is, even though we don't care about that, but it seems doable, and we're getting some sort of external praise for it. But meanwhile, things that you really are passionate about, you're putting to the side because it just doesn't seem possible. Or failure at that would just be devastating.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that was music for me. I stopped doing music for the longest time because, well, for a lot of many varied reasons, part of which was health. But if I failed at that, it would be too detrimental to my spirit. I just couldn't put myself out there and have people tell me that they didn't like it. And so that's on my, 5-year goal of getting some music out into the world. But I had to go through a whole bunch of other goals that mattered a lot less to me because that one was too big to fail, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, so I think like the way that I live my life, which is kind of doing whatever I want to, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, I pivot, is almost like, I hope, inspirational because of that, not just because it seems fun to live in a, van life, right? Like the details are what draws some people, but I think just seeing Alan and I do what we love and make a living out of that is the more inspirational piece of it, because you don't have to want to live in a van to be able to take something from that.
No, it's like living life on your terms and like giving yourself permission to do that too. Just like what you said about giving yourself permission to put your health first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to your question of how do I feel when I wake up, some days, most days, I feel amazing. Some days I wake up and I think I really should not have had that ice cream. Right? So like that's another thing that I think is important for people to realize, is that we're not going for perfection. If you're striving for perfection, you might as well just not strive, because you're not going to get there. So you need to be striving for realistic goals. And so if I eat things that cause inflammation, I feel inflamed and my joints hurt, but I know what caused it and I know what to do to make it go away. Yeah. And so I can listen to my body and I can support it in the ways that it needs. And I can stretch, what I think is possible a little bit. I can have, eat hamburgers and ice cream for Memorial Day weekend if I want to, and just know that there's going to be a couple of days of getting back on track. But I have the freedom to do that. Whereas when I was really sick, if I did that, it'd be a month of trying to get back on track.
Okay. So I've kind of finished what I think that I will leave for today, right? At least on video. What do you think of something like this? Now, having spoken to you now, this is the very bare bones of something, because I've taken some notes here of what you've included. But as the very basic about, what do you think something like this would work for you? Or do you have any notes or things you really don't like or are pivoted in the wrong direction?
No, I like it. I do like the paragraph about the puzzle pieces, because part of what may get people frustrated is that they've tried some natural things before and they didn't fix it because they didn't realize that there were other pieces that needed fixing. So I do think that's important to, we have to look at the whole puzzle.
Yeah.
Not just take 5 puzzle pieces and hope that'll do it. Right.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I like it. It's a lot of details and things that I definitely haven't put into it before. So that's exciting to.
Yeah. So what I can do is I can just walk you through what I've included and why I've included it. And there are some pieces that I see. The way I see it is like we want to keep it, we want to say what we need to say in as few as words possible. And we want to just give people like little nuggets of information, but like share a lot in a few words, if that makes sense. And so it's not overwhelming, but you're actually communicating a lot of information in the way that you're doing it. So if I talk you through this, and hopefully I don't mess up at any point because I kind of wrote it off the cuff, but the space is just about creating an environment where they belong, right? So when people land on your website, you want people to say like, I'm home, because it's like that saying, there's no place like home, right? That's how you want people to feel when they come on your website. So then we're saying you can come and learn the powerful natural healing tools and techniques. So this is specifically talking about what you're doing. We want to say this is a benefit. You can reclaim your health and feel good again. And I've put it as feel good again because I feel like that's a really simple term, but one that we all use. Like, I just want to feel good again, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I've talked a little bit more specifically about crystals, essential oils, affirmations, and meditation. Now, I added this in here after I wrote this part. Well, I wrote it and then I was like, maybe this doesn't fit right after, because then I've put, see if you're reading this. The reason I've done that is just so that people are like, hey, I am talking to you, right? So when they go on to read this, they see that you're talking directly to them. You're not talking to a reader. You're not talking to an ideal client, if we put quotation marks, right? You're speaking to them.
Right.
And you're like, you want them to be sitting looking at the screen saying like, oh, I'm engaged, like, because it forces people to engage with you. You might have been sitting staring at the screen, and then you're kind of talking to how they're feeling right now. So if they're sitting there, they're like, how did she know that? Right?
Yeah.
You've tried.
How is she in my head right now?
Right, exactly. That's what you want. You want people to think that you know them so well, you know exactly what they're thinking, because it helps them to build trust and know that you're talking to them, you care about them, that you're listening, you see them. We all want to be seen and heard and felt and understood and feel like we belong. So I've put here, you've gone to doctors, changed up your diet, lost yourself in the Google rabbit hole. Still, you have no answers, because it's kind of where that journey leads you down. And all you want to do is wake up and feel okay, right? Like, and then you're relating yourself to it. You're saying like, not only do I know this is how you feel, the reason I know how you feel is because I've been exactly where you are. And the 20 years just shows like how much experience you have with this and how long you've been dealing with this. So you have a very in-depth understanding. Sick and tired and overweight, this came from the website Content Planner, and couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. I think that almost everybody who's experiencing these issues feels exactly like this, whether the overweight thing is a personal thing or not. Like, everybody can relate to that feeling of like, I'm trying everything, it's not working.
Yeah.
And then we have this here is the cost of not working with you. That's the way I see it. The way I see it is this could happen if you don't take control of your life. Maybe it's already happened, but you can change that right now.
Yeah.
So again, that's why we've like kind of created these triggers, and we can work with them. I was frustrated all the time, didn't think I'd get better until I did. So it's like, here's where you're headed. Let's stop right now and change the story. And then we have like the health is a puzzle. And again, the specific areas, just like what you said, a lot of the time people go down one route and they think they understand, and they don't see how everything connects. So we're talking to that. We're going to look up the pieces that make up the puzzle. In doing so, I was able to take a holistic approach and learn how to work with my body rather than against it. Because like you said, a lot of us hear what our body is saying and ignore what it's saying and continue because we know better, right?
Right.
By taking the time to research, understand, and listen to my body, I've changed my life. Now I'm excited to wake up. I've got bucket loads of energy. I'm ready to share it with you once you've regained your health, you can do anything. I've been able to do it. Now I'm here to help you do the same. So then it's just, again, and that's a quick way of ending it. It is. But the reason I've done it that way is because I think then we can go into more information. Like, it's trying not to overwhelm with too much. And again, your about page is more than just your brand story. It's just part of it. If we go to your website structure and we go up here, this is just this section, right? So our intro, right, brand statement, and then it's like choose your adventure. And here I'm rethinking this a little bit because I think maybe the adventure is like, well, I'm not even rethinking it. I just think for the about page, we should just have a transitional call to action, which would be join your free Facebook group. And then we should have the paid call to action, which is join Ivy and Light, because then all of these things can be incorporated underneath that. Does that sound okay to you?
Yes. Yeah. And just making sure that it's within those two places, it's easy for them to learn about
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then we can either share your products or your resources page, because we spoke about maybe having a resources page and then maybe having a quote at the end. I also, so here where I've got like digital nomad, I see that as being like we can showcase. So once we've told this story, I'm going to come back to see you just now. And hello to everybody who watched. Okay, so I'm back. So once we've told that story, we then want to show the result. So rather than even having to say, okay, I'm just going to say hi to a couple of people who are on, because I just realized I've done a terrible job of the comments. So hello to Carmen, hello to Phil, and hello to Bianca. I hope I said your name right. Thank you so much for joining. Yeah, so once we've done that, once we've told that story, we then want to show them the after. Right? So it's like when you see all those weight loss pictures and you see the before and then you see the after, they are the before, right? Really, them sitting at home is the before. But like, if you can show them that you now like travel around the States and you live this digital nomad lifestyle and you have energy and you're having fun and you're making YouTube videos, that rather than telling people you can make their life better, you're then showing them through your own life. Like, and that's where I think the about page really comes to life. So then we'll have there's tons of pictures that you have and Alan's taken, and there's loads of videos. So we'll incorporate that in. I was even thinking maybe like a collage of like different pictures so that people can play around with that, so that when they see it, it's almost like a vision board. If you in a phase. And they could be like, yes, I want that.
Yeah. So I love that vision board.
Good to you. Yeah. Because it's something, again, you talk about. And it's so, the other part of it is being able to communicate this information the way you share it. It's in alignment. So like you do vision boards.
Right.
So incorporating a vision board style element like that onto your about page is like another way of showcasing you. But you're not doing it by telling people who you are or through words. You're like showing them through the experience that you're providing. So that's where we're at with that. Like, I'll have to go away. We'll have to play with it a little bit more. But do you have any questions or any thoughts or that you want to talk about before we leave and say goodbye to everyone who watched?
I don't think so. I definitely love the idea of speaking to the audience directly, to the person who's on the site directly on an about page. Because like I was saying before, I feel like if I give all the details of what led me to create this group, and I just say, I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, and then I lived in New York and I had all of these issues, then people just know something about me.
Yeah.
But does that make them want to work with me? Well, not necessarily, because that doesn't tell them what I can do for them. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying about really speaking to them and where they are, and only me as a way for them to get to where they're going.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, because the other thing is like you said you wanted people to contact you, right? So the more they feel like I'm having a conversation with you, it's like, oh, I want to speak to Erin because she gets it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Versus like when you come across as very like, not you, but like people come across as very business-like, and things. And then it can be like, well, you feel intimidated. You feel like, I don't know if they can help me. I don't know if they really get it.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole thing is being able to speak to people as people. Because that's what we all are, right? Like no matter, you're helping somebody. But the best way to help someone is to be there for them and have a conversation with them and let them see that they're seen and heard and feel like they belong and all that stuff. So I'm glad that you're happy with that. Before I end this, can you tell everybody where they can follow you and follow along your journey? Firstly, we never talked about this enough, but Erin is a true digital nomad. And you have some of the best YouTube videos ever. You and your partner, Basecamp Brooklyn, give a shout out to Basecamp, Alan at Basecamp Brooklyn as well, because I like watching his recipes that I'm too scared to try. Where can people find you and follow you on social media?
Yes, they can find both of us on Instagram. So at Basecamp Brooklyn is Alan with all of his gorgeous photography, and at ivy.and.light. And if you go to that Instagram for me, then you can actually find my personal one, Erin Holland, and my jewelry one, Lula May Design. I'm crazy. I have 3. But anyways, there's links, easy links to get to all of those based on what you're most interested in seeing. And then my YouTube channel is youtube.com/c/ivy&light. I'm sure you could get there through my Instagram too. But yeah, so I focus on health and wellness, but on YouTube, it's especially on the road. Like, how am I working that into my life on the road, which is more complicated, but also more streamlined in some ways. It simplifies it because I can only take so many things with me. And so I'm able to share like a core, what you would want to have with you in life. So that's kind of a fun thing. And then Alan's Basecamp Brooklyn is all the food. Some of it's healthy, some of it's not, but all of it's delicious. And then how we live, our car, our trailer, our adventures, where we've been this past year. And yeah, both of us are just through that journey. We realized in October of 2018, why are we waiting to have enough money to start living our dreams? Why don't we just figure out a way to afford to live our dreams now? So that's really the journey of the nomad life, is how can we get rid of the stuff we don't need and just make more time, money, and energy for the stuff we want to do in life.
Well, you've certainly done that, and it's been such an inspiration having watched the whole journey from before you were on the roads to what it's been like to adapt on the road, and then coming to the other side of it. And it's really cool because it's almost like you really have created your life around like who you are, who you want to be, how you want to live, the things that matter to you. And you're just doing it. And I think that in itself is a huge inspiration to people. And I want to say thank you so much for being brave enough to do this with me. One, because I'm still new to it and don't know what on earth I'm doing. I think I bought a new webcam, think it's still dodgy, but never mind. And for being brave enough to share your journey and to do like a work with me session, which is scary in itself. I know it's scary doing it, but it must be scary coming on and doing it with as well. So thank you so much for your time, and you know how much I love you, and I think you're awesome.
Thank you.
Everybody goes and follows you, so everybody go follow Erin. And if you want to keep up with her about page and what we're doing, stay following both of us at Ivy and Light. I'm at Chloe Forbes K. You probably know that if you're watching, because we'll be sharing more, and we're working on a project which is exciting, so it'll be cool to follow along with that too.
Absolutely. And if you come follow me, say hi, tell me a little bit about yourself, because I want to get to know you too, not just not just have us follow each other, but really make a connection. That's always super fun.
Yeah, it's the most important thing. Well, thank you so much, Erin. And obviously I'll speak to you soon. And hopefully I'll speak to everybody else who's watching soon too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was super fun.